let's get back to this three things, the three building blocks of an effective long-term partnership program. I'm going to start with process. What I mean by process is the sequence of activity that you're going through. Everyone in this room has a process. You might not be aware of the process, but you do. You have a sequence of activity, a pattern that you go through every day in terms of securing corporate partners. This, I believe, is the process that should be employed. Let me take you through the top line of it, and I'll draw out a few points. At the very start of the process is about understanding your proposition. There's kind of two parts to that. The first is understanding the market, which is recognizing that companies have needs, whether from engaging audiences to driving brand awareness, to communicating messages, to differentiating their product, to engaging their staff, to engaging new customers and existing customers, to driving sales, or even something that might be of personal interest to the person in the company. Companies have objectives. And what you have to do is, as a group, not individually, but with your marketing team, your programming team, and your executive, is to sit in a room and work out what is your proposition. And by proposition, I'm talking about what are the outcomes that you can help a company to achieve, and what are the properties that you're going to take to market. By properties, I'm talking about your education program, your outreach program. Is it some research? And there's all those different things that a company can be involved with. And you've got to ask yourself, which ones are the most attractive and why? Which ones is there a sense of urgency in getting some funding and why? And build out a 3-year program of which ones you're going to take it to market and why. And budget which ones you're going to budget for to come in those particular years and why. But at this stage, you also need to put valuations against all these, so you're comfortable with your valuation, and you also need to have the right materials. Now, the word proposals doesn't come way up into the process. At this stage, what we're building is key facts documents and opportunity documents. A key facts document is really a document that introduces your organization, who you are, what you do, why you do it, where you do it, talks about some of your audience footprint, your brand footprint, your marketing footprint, and it also talks about the key objectives that you can help a company achieve, and it also talks about the different entry points for engagement. That you have events, you have research programs, whatever the different points that you have. And this is just to whet someone's appetite to start a conversation about where they would like to focus the following conversation. And they might turn around and say to you, look, thank you so much for that. What we're really interested in is this education program. That allows you to put together an opportunity document which talks about the education program is, what it is, how it looks, where it is, and what that education program can do for them. But it doesn't go into specifics, okay? So what I mean by that is, if you had a national fundraising day, what you're trying to do is to talk to someone about the opportunity to participate, but you're not going to say to them, you can have one table or one volunteering opportunity for 10 people on this day. Because they might want 1,000 tables, they might want 1,000 volunteering opportunities. That comes in the proposal, the detail goes in the proposal after you've had a discussion about their specific needs. Otherwise, you're just putting a solution to someone without having covered the problem. So in this stage, before you've started to kind of go out and talk to anyone, you're very comfortable in what your proposition is. And then what the next stage is saying, okay, if we understand our propositions, we've got to find some prospects who are attracted to our propositions. You should never approach any company unless you have an identified reason for approaching them. And that is called qualified prospects. And this is the mistake people make. It's too much quantity rather than quality. And so what this is about is teasing out all the different themes in your organization, just as an example. And if you think of them, things such as indigenous, youth, family, community, leadership, innovation, Asia Pacific, aged care, disability, environment, sustainability, I could come up with 100 words here. What you've got to do is tease out all those themes that you have and ask yourself which companies are out there looking and communicating and talking about how they're involved in a positive way with those themes. And what you end up is not with one prospect list, but you end up with maybe a prospect list for each of the different themes that you can engage companies with. And you should never approach anyone, this is what I talk about refining, unless you actually have an identified reason for going to them. Once you've done that, you've got to approach them or attract them, and then you're into classic business development. You're going to have a meeting, you've got to prepare for the meeting, you've got to build rapport, you've got to uncover needs, which is the most important part of this whole process. And then you've got to explore solutions, and then you've got to present a solution, and you've got to close. Let me pick up on exploring solutions, because this is a key part which separates good business developers from not so good. Let's imagine that you've gone to a meeting and the prospect said, what we're really interested in is community engagement. Now, do you go away and write a proposal addressing community engagement, or do you say, can I just ask you a couple of questions? When you say community, can I ask you which community are you referring to? Who is this community, just so we're both absolutely clear? And if they were engaged, what would be happening? What would it look like? What would they be saying? In 12 months' time, if you'd said to me that community engagement had been achieved, what would we be looking at? What would we be hearing? What would we be seeing? I need to understand this because I need to understand your interpretation of this, because if I ask 10 different people, I'm going to get 10 different interpretations. Having understood what their interpretation of community engagement is, rather than running off and writing a proposal, then we explore solutions in the moment. And this is when you've got to know what you have to offer. And what you do, you say is, okay, you mentioned that community engagement is very important. Let me show you what we did with another partner who had the same challenge. We did this for them. What is your reaction to that? Or if you haven't done it with another partner, we could do this. What is your reaction to that? And what you're looking for, in a sense, is a bit like a traffic lights. They're going to give you one of three responses. The first response, which is the good one, is the green one that says that is exactly what we want. Okay, great. So if we put that in the proposal, that would be good. Absolutely. You might get the red, which is actually that's not what we want at all. And then you can talk about why they don't want it, what would work. Or it might be the amber, which is, that sounds interesting, but I think we need to hear more about this. What you're doing in the meeting is shaping your proposal, so that when you write a proposal, you're not hitting and hoping, will they like it? You know they'll like it because you've shaped the proposal with them in the meeting. Now, this does take confidence and experience, but this is where you want to get to. Again, I go back to the vision. Maybe your own personal vision is in 3 years' time, I want to be really comfortable and confident in meetings and really making sure I explore solutions to everyone before providing a solution. After closing them or overcoming their objections, you come to an area I'm working more and more on. This is about retention. There is no point bringing any partner on if you're not servicing and retaining them. And in a moment, I'll show you about a corporate partners workshop as a servicing technique. But also, I put on the end maximising performance, because this is so important for me. If you're out in the marketplace engaging corporates, as an individual or as a team, there's so much learning. After every meeting, what worked well, what didn't go well. At the end of every week as a BD team, this week we've been out in the marketplace. What's working, what's not, what are the learnings? And if you're not doing that, you're not driving your performance. Now, the point about a process, it is a sequence of activity. So there's no point being a great presenter if you haven't uncovered someone's needs. There's no point being the great meter of people if you're not getting enough meetings. So my challenge to you is, when you walk away from here, I want you to think about, individually or collectively, what is our process? Is there something in this process that we're not doing that could be a barrier to our success? Because if there is, if you don't address it, the barrier will continue. But if you do address it, it might free up and unblock what might be a blockage in your business development process.